Hello and welcome. My name's Ryan Johnson, and this is the Saltcast. Today, I welcome back Paul Johnson and Jason Parr. Good morning, guys.
Yo, yo.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Ryan. Good to be here.
It's
I
another
love it.
glorious
Love it.
day in the
Paul,
podcast.
are you working on new salutations? Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to push back on how you like to say hello. I did find that one interesting, though.
You're welcome for that.
Well, yo, back to you. Ryan, you better take
Salutations.
control of this.
Here we go. We're getting back in. Now, um, what I want to talk today about is when we get a new client or someone reaches out to us, there's usually one thing we start out which with each client, and that's kind of a risk analysis to see where they might have some sales tax responsibility. And this
I
is a
like how
pretty
you said that.
comprehensive.
I like how you said
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You may have a
Yeah,
sales tax responsibility.
we discussed this a lot. But I wanted you guys to kind of go through, what it is we provide, what it is, we go over with each client, each business, and recommendations we give, and things of that matter when it comes to a sales tax risk analysis.
Before Paul jumps in there, because Paul, I don't know, maybe he's performed 1,000 of these. I don't know what the number is. I just want to indicate why I mentioned why I appreciated the verbiage that you used. Because words matter, and what we have found is helping someone understand what their sales tax responsibility is one thing. And it's possible that you could have exposure. Nobody likes that word. It's possible that you have a liability that you need to manage or take care of or comply with. But I don't like the term when you're working with new individuals and trying to educate people on why this is so important to say, let's figure out what your exposure is. Like right off the bat, you got exposure. People immediately want to put their head in the sand, or they have some fear. Or let's figure out what your liability to the state is. Well, no. Let's find out what your potential sales tax responsibility is by answering those three big questions. We've talked a lot about them. And if you have a responsibility, and let's talk about what are the next steps to comply, right? That's why we call it a what's next call. So anyway, I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit. Why, Pizer Johnson doesn't come right out of the gate saying, let's figure out what your exposure is, let's figure out what your liability is. It's not automatic that everybody has exposure or liability, but it is important to understand what your responsibility is in the marketplace under the new tax laws that have come forth out of Wayfair over the last 4.5 years. Anyway, Paul.
Nobody likes to be exposed, okay? So exposure naturally is a bad word, okay? Naturally,
Well
we don't
played.
want.
Well played, Paul. I'm going to correct you a little bit. Most people
This is
don't
true.
like to be exposed. I don't like to use absolute words.
I am one of those that do not like to be exposed. And when I am exposed, it's quite uncomfortable. So exposure naturally is an uncomfortable word for most.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Nobody likes a sunburn, right?
it's true. Don't
Agreed.
expose that skin to the sun for too long. But a risk
Yeah.
analysis, understanding your sales tax responsibility. What is my responsibility? Am I responsible for collecting this tax? Do I have this responsibility in this state? Oh, it's huge. And it's one of the ways that we provide peace of mind to just about everybody that we talk to is because we address that very thing. And we most commonly recommend a risk analysis just because most companies are not registered in every jurisdiction where they have a responsibility. They're unaware.
Yeah.
They have additional states or additional local jurisdictions. They aren't aware that they established Nexus in this jurisdiction, or they aren't aware of what the new economic thresholds are in this state. Shout out to Missouri, whose economic nexus goes into effect January 1 of 2023. So if you're not registered in Missouri, you may consider getting registered there. But first, understanding what your responsibility is. And the very first way that you figure that out is you start with Nexus.
I see the book right behind you there.
That's the
Famous
book.
book written by one of our founding partners.
Founding partner Andy Johnson wrote this book. It's called Start with Nexus.
You have
And
to.
Hey,
that's what we
it's
do.
on Amazon. It's on Amazon if you want to buy it.
There you go.
Start with Nexus.
It's true. It's on Amazon. But you start with Nexus because that's when the state can impose or require you to collect their tax on sales that you're making to customers who reside in their state. Without Nexus, then there isn't a responsibility or a requirement for you to collect tax on those transactions. So just this morning, we were reached out by a client. Hey, I'm making sales in Alabama, and I need to know the sales tax rate in, I don't remember the city, let's say Mobile, Alabama. And so we provide them a sales tax rate. By the way, we wouldn't recommend you collect sales tax until you've established Nexus. We knew this client just because they're a current client, and so we know they didn't have physical Nexus in the state. So we just alerted them to what the economic Nexus legislation was, $250,000, and they were like, "Oh, sweet! I don't have to worry about tax. It's on the customer to collect the tax." So when it comes to a risk analysis, we start from the very beginning with Nexus. Where have you established Nexus? We help you identify where you've established Nexus and when you establish Nexus. And once you've established Nexus, then our risk analysis takes into account all of the sales, the transactions that were made in that jurisdiction. From that time going forward, we calculate what your sales tax responsibility is. It's an estimation. It's not an exact amount. It's not, audit worthy by any means, but it's very, very accurate, and it's a good estimation of the tax responsibility that you have in that state. Once you understand where you've established Nexus and what your tax responsibility is, then you get a really good understanding of what to do next. Whether we do the risk analysis or you have an automated partner who does the risk analysis or it's a DIY risk analysis, whatever the case may be, we encourage you to consult with another individual. Get a second opinion. Here's what I have. Here's my thoughts. And we do that all the time on these free What's Next calls that you can jump on at any point. But at that point, once you understand and you know what to do next, then it's pretty clear. Okay, maybe registrations here, maybe voluntary disclosure here. Maybe I'm just not going to do anything here just yet. My responsibility is not material enough. The cost of getting registered or getting compliant in that state is too much to handle. Or the amount of tax that I should have collected over the last 4 years because I had Nexus is too material. And I don't have the resources to handle that just yet. Okay, let's walk through what that looks like, how to avoid penalties and interest, how to avoid a look-back period, whatever the situation or circumstance may be. The risk analysis is key to understanding all of those factors, and it helps understand and provide that peace of mind to you, so you know where your responsibility is, where you're not responsible, which is it's killer. I mean, it's crucial, absolutely crucial.
Yeah, and it's, you bring up some great points. The three questions that we answer in any risk analysis and also that we talk through in our What's Next consultations is, do I have Nexus, right? Could be physical Nexus, could be economic Nexus. Just as you've indicated, people might be aware of economic Nexus. They may not be aware that they had physical Nexus. They might be aware that there's thresholds out there. So they're aware that there could be situations, but they're not familiar with the thresholds. This is a state-by-state analysis, helping you understand what your responsibility is in each state. I want to make that clear. And then number two, because it's a state-by-state analysis and because you might have Nexus in multiple states that you didn't previously have Nexus. Remember, Nexus is all about where your customers are located now. Used to be just based on where you were located with a physical presence. Because it's across multiple states, there's multiple tax laws that you're looking at now. And so trying to understand the taxability of your products or services or both can be daunting. And so part of a What's Next risk analysis that we perform includes that ability to learn what the taxability is. That obviously helps you know if I have Nexus and I'm selling a taxable product or service, then I may have a responsibility to collect tax in that state.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have had that responsibility going back a little while, because Nexus may have been established further back than maybe I anticipated. And that's where we start talking about what are the next steps. And then obviously that third question, we talk through your business operations and how you sell your products or services, right? If
Right.
everything is sold on a marketplace facilitator platform, you might think in your mind, I'm good. I don't need to worry
Yeah.
about it. No, you need to talk through each state,
Yeah.
and gain some of what we call confidence through collaboration, getting that second opinion. So
Right.
those are the three questions that are answered. And so if in that process you determine that you had responsibility and now you have some potential exposure, which, as Paul indicated, nobody likes that. Nobody likes to learn that they have exposure. Trust me, we've worked with a lot of companies. But there are ways to mitigate that
Yeah.
exposure and remedy
Yeah.
the situation and become compliant. And you
Yeah.
definitely want to talk to a professional when it comes to that. So one of the things I want to tout in all of this is this idea that I can go to an automated solution and I can do what I call a DIY analysis myself. Yes, you
Mm-hmm.
can. You can go through that process. All we say is collaborate with somebody before you take the next steps, right?
Yeah.
If it says that you should be registered in this state because you have Nexus and what you sell is taxable and you're the responsible party for collecting the tax on those sales, don't automatically go get registered without talking to somebody.
Yeah.
If it says that, your exposure is pretty material, so you should enter a voluntary disclosure agreement with the state, don't automatically contact the state and say, hey, we've learned that we have exposure and we'd like to work with you on a voluntary disclosure basis to try to remedy that. Talk with somebody. Even if you've had a review done by another consulting group, get on a What's Next call. Let's go through your analysis
Yeah.
and just get a second opinion. It doesn't cost you
Yeah.
anything, and it could save you a ton of money if
Yeah.
you just get a second opinion or you have somebody walk through that with you and just provide some practical application of what can be done to become compliant and what really matters and may not matter. And in the end, you may find in a What's Next consultation, you might hear Paul say these words. Listen, based on the analysis that you had performed, if that data that you provided is accurate, or based on the analysis that or the conversation that we've had, you don't need to do anything right now. You may not have Nexus in a number of states or any states. What you sell may not be taxable or it might be sold at a reduced rate, but you don't have
Mm-hmm.
Nexus, so it doesn't matter if you're
Mm-hmm.
selling taxable items into that state.
Mm-hmm.
Or you may not be the responsible party. I think
Mm-hmm.
what Paul would say, and he may have been prepared to say this to remind me to say to you, don't automatically go get registered without talking to us or another professional. Don't automatically contact the state and let them know that you believe you have exposure because you've identified it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But lastly, do not put your head in the sand. Don't
Don't
do this
hide.
analysis and then say, oh, I don't even want to face it. I'm not going to deal with it.
Yeah.
It only gets worse. The most costly mistake you
Yeah.
can make when it comes to sales
Yeah.
tax and your sales tax responsibility is to ignore it
Yeah.
and let time go by.
Yeah.
You've probably heard Ryan say, and you've probably seen in our social media post that sales tax is a margin killer. Every period that goes by, every month, every year that goes by that you're not taking care of this responsibility and getting compliant, you're potentially exposing yourself to enough tax, interest, and penalty that would eat up any
Yeah.
profit margin that you gained in those
Yeah.
periods. And so
Yeah.
the longer that happens, the longer that situation can be happening.
And the sales tax is designed to be, I mean, it's a trust tax, right? It's a tax due by the customer, and it's not supposed to be a tax you're responsible for paying out of your own pocket with
Well
penalty and
said.
interest. So,
Yep.
if you're not set up to collect the tax, but you've established Nexus, then It could be as easy as turning the tax on in the shopping cart. If you don't have that option, then engaging with a software company to connect to your ERP or to your shopping cart to enable the tax to be collected. And then it's just a matter of remitting it. One of the common questions we get is, well, can we just register everywhere, turn the tax on everywhere, and collect it and remit it? Absolutely. You can voluntarily collect and remit tax in any jurisdiction.
Yep.
But what you'll find is that oftentimes the cost associated with being a compliant taxpayer will outweigh the tax responsibility that you have. And so if that's the case, then you're just hurting yourself in the long run because you're paying thousands of dollars to be a registered taxpayer to file and remit returns. You have an established nexus, and the tax you're collecting or the tax liability you have is very, very minimal. So oftentimes we also consult with companies who maybe they have a responsibility and they have established nexus, but the amount of tax is immaterial. And so they like to play the risk game and roll the dice. We call that audit roulette and see if we get audited. It's a little bit risky, but depending on the business and how much money you got, if you're willing to go that route, then it's an option. Not always the best option, but it's out there for sure.
We don't advise it, but there are taxpayers that
Right?
take that position.
Yeah.
When faced with an understanding of what their responsibility is.
For sure.
But again, even in those situations, we can still remedy and stop the bleeding going forward.
Yeah.
Help you get set up correctly so that that type of situation doesn't continue to expand or grow.
Yeah. One of the greatest reasons why you need a risk analysis is for mere education, for learning what the responsibility is across the states, all states, U.S. and Canada, and also the peace of mind that you gain just by educating yourself very easily and very quickly. One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen is through a risk analysis or an economic nexus study done by another provider or automated solution. They don't get the legislation right, surprisingly. I've seen a number of risk analysis that were done where they indicate that the threshold is $100,000 when truly it's $500,000. So you want to make certain that the facts are true and the facts are right, and the effective dates are right. Otherwise, you're shooting yourself in the foot unnecessarily. So don't do that. Don't do that.
Something I want to start tracking, which has nothing to do with tax, is once someone has participated in a What's Next risk analysis by Pizer & Johnson, I think it becomes evidenced that sleep habits improve dramatically and quality of life improves. There's something about gaining confidence in your next steps by collaborating with someone and or gaining peace of mind when your situation is handled correctly and you're compliant. Your sleep patterns dramatically improve.
Truth.
One of the questions we ask when we're out and about, now I don't just ask anybody on the street, but as I pass them, but when we're at different conferences and we have opportunity to connect with other business leaders and accountants and such, is sales tax keeping you up at night? And if someone's aware of their potential responsibility to be collecting and remitting tax, they'll often say, yes, it is. So let's chat about that, because there's no reason to be up at night worrying about that. If they say no, I usually respond with, well, should it? Because unless you've gone through this process and done this analysis, then you don't know if you're set up properly in each state. Now, if you've gone through the process and you're registered in each state, then what might be keeping you up late at night, and it's for another podcast, or I'm sure we've covered it before, is just your frustrations with your sales tax process. And if you're frustrated with your current process, again, we should chat, because a lot of times people don't understand that there's a better process out there, and it's not as difficult as people might think to change to a different process. So,
Yeah.
but I don't want to dig too deep into that. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
digress as I elaborate. But you shared some great content today, Paul. Thank you.
No, it's
Yeah.
good stuff. I get really excited about this stuff just because of the success that we've seen and the happiness and joy truly that it brings, understanding, and the weight that's lifted off their shoulders. When you identify the issue, you fix the issue, or you register, you get compliant. Just yesterday on a call, the client had, I don't know, a $60,000 tax bill from the state of Florida, and we're able to come in, work some magic, get the returns filed, get the tax paid, and it's just, whew, the load is literally lifted off of his shoulders, and just to be a part of that is a blessing and an honor. So I'm extremely humbled and grateful to be in the position we are
Yeah,
to be
that's
able to
cool. That's
assist and
cool that you
help.
said that. I mean, a core principle we have at Pizer and Johnson, and we don't just say this, it's not like some marketing gimmick, is we really enjoy helping other people,
Yeah,
right? It's this concept
100%.
of we over me. When you help other people, you help yourself in the end. So,
Yeah,
the public companies, their intention and their efforts is to please the shareholder. Um, in companies or firms that have been acquired by private equity, their intention and their purpose is to please the investors. There's always somebody that you're having to prove from a growth model, so to speak, that you're trying to achieve. But here we gain a lot of satisfaction simply out of helping people.
hmm,
And we're biased. We believe we're very competent at what we do. We think we give
it's
some
true.
really good answers and some good direction and confidence and peace of mind. So we talk about that a lot. But it's a core principle that when you help other people, you help yourself, and you feel good about your situation. So we're trying to truly help people understand and manage their sales tax responsibility.
Hmm.
And that comes with opportunities to serve them in a great service.
Hmm.
But sometimes people don't really need what we have, and maybe they don't even want what we offer.
Hmm.
If they leave, if they step away from whatever that is with greater confidence and peace of mind in their next steps and what they're doing, we're perfectly happy. And
Hoorah.
it's it's legitimate. Now, if nobody ever needed anything that we did, maybe after a while we would have some sadness enter in. But legitimately, when you see someone's business saved,
Yeah,
and them being able to be at ease
yeah,
and continue to do what they do really well, which is try to grow their business,
yeah,
not have to deal with this, it's super satisfying.
yeah.
Super. Yeah, we've put a lot of time and a lot of effort in creating free content and free tools for people to use to gain that peace of mind. And one of those tools is you can do your own kind of nexus analysis on where you might beat thresholds or physical presence thresholds within each state. And so make sure and check out that tool as well. And you could even chat with us live through the whole process.
Yeah.
We provide that as well. So don't hesitate to reach out, and we want to talk to you. And thank you, Paul and Jason. And we
Absolutely.
hope to see you on another one.
Indeed. It's been great. Thanks, Ryan.